faithfully sharing value and exploring great books worldwide. Hi, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today, we're exploring Agatha Christie's autobiography for you. If we were to rank the best selling works in British history, naturally, the Bible comes first and Shakespeare's work second. So, who takes the third spot? Maybe you've heard of her, Agatha Christie, the renowned queen of crime. She published 68 detective novels, 21 short story collections, 18 plays, an autobiography, 2 poetry books, and more, selling over 2 billion copies. Most of her novels have been made into movies, and some, like Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, had been adapted repeatedly. So, what was the upbringing of this outstanding female writer? And how did she rise to become the queen of crime? Today's book, Agatha Christie's autobiography, gives us those answers. Agatha began writing this autobiography at 60 and didn't finish until she was 75, spending 15 years on it. In this book, she reminisces about her carefree childhood, her adolescent years of first romance, her lengthy writing journey, and her 2 marriages, and her experiences during the 2 world wars. Agatha's writing is plain and fluent, making it feel like chatting with an old friend you haven't seen in ages. She reflects candidly and sincerely on the little moments of her life. In 1890, Agatha Christie was born in Torquay, a coastal town in Devon, England. She was born into a wealthy middle-class family with devoted parents, an older brother, Monty, and an older sister, Madge, all living happily together. They lived in a villa named Ashfield and hired servants to look after them. Since her siblings were much older and her mother was elderly with rheumatism, young Agatha had no playmates. So she imagined companions playing and talking with them, which sparked her imagination. The first playmates little Agatha imagined were a family of cats. She often imagined adventures of this cat family. They were very poor, with the father cat leaving for sea and vanishing, leaving the mother cat in poverty, which was pitiful. However, Agatha designed a wonderful ending for them. The cat father didn't die in the storm at sea. Instead, he returned laden with a boat full of treasures. Little Agatha also imagined the toilet in the bathroom as the queen's throne. Every morning, she would sit on this throne, imagining a group of worshippers in front of her. On the throne, little Agatha handled countless affairs. She listened to the worshippers reading memorials, expressed her opinions, and gracefully extended her hand for them to kiss. It wasn't until the people outside the bathroom grew impatient and angrily broke into this fantasy world that little Agatha reluctantly jumped off the throne and left. And from these details, we see the first key point of Agatha's personality, her rich imagination. Next, let's talk about the second key point, her love for reading. Little Agatha's parents valued education greatly. Her sister Madge attended Lawrence Girls' School, and her brother Monty went to Harrow School, both top-tier boarding schools in England. But in educating little Agatha, her mother suddenly made a complete U-turn. She believed that to protect the child's eyesight and brain, children shouldn't start school too early. They should stay with their parents before the age of 8. However, clever little Agatha didn't let her mother have her way. She taught herself to recognize many words. One day, little Agatha actually read a book to her nanny, which terrified the nanny. The nanny had to tell little Agatha's mother with great guilt, which troubled the mother deeply. But little Agatha was overjoyed because the world in books was truly amazing. From then on, Agatha always loved reading deeply. For Christmas and birthdays, she only asked for books as gifts. However, her happy childhood took a turn when Agatha was 11. That year, her father, who deeply loved her, passed away. The following year, her sister Madge got married, And since her brother Monty was always wandering abroad, only Agatha and her mother were left at home, relying on each other. Thus, Agatha's carefree childhood life came to an end. Due to her father's death, the family standard of living plummeted. Agatha and her mother practiced frugality everywhere and stopped social activities. Her daily life revolved mainly around extensive reading, from which she derived endless joy. When Agatha was 13, her mother suddenly felt her education was insufficient, so Agatha began her schooling journey. First, she studied at a girls' school in her hometown, Torquay, for a year and a half. Then, her mother rented out Ashfield Villa and took Agatha to Paris for further education. Due to her mother's changeable nature and Agatha's own love for novelty, she transferred schools twice more in Paris, eventually majoring in piano and vocal music. During her studies, Agatha gained deeper self-awareness. Most importantly, she recognized her limitation. She lacked talent for public performance. At the end of term concert, Agatha was scheduled to perform two pieces. But ever since learning she'd perform before the whole school, she became flustered and started having nightmares. She'd dream either of the piano suddenly breaking or of herself being late. Worse yet, just 2 days before the concert, Agatha suddenly developed a severe fever without cause. After examination, though finding no reason, the doctor suggested canceling her performance. Only then did Agatha feel relieved. On graduation's eve, Agatha frankly asked a pianist whether she could become professional through diligent practice. The pianist bluntly told Agatha she lacked performance talent, making professional prospects slim. Agatha suffered greatly over this answer at the time, but later she felt grateful for realizing this early. Agatha herself said her life motto was to try anything new, hence transferring schools, studying music, and loving reading. What's truly admirable is how she distinguished interests from talents and decided decisively. She wouldn't cling to things just because she had invested time and effort. This wisdom set Agatha apart from ordinary people. So, how did Agatha embark on writing detective novels? Frankly, though always loving reading, young Agatha never imagined becoming a writer, nor saw writing as her aspiration. Her first published work at age 11 was a short poem in a newspaper describing a tram's first day operating in a London district. The first verse of this little poem reads, "The tram's first run, parading through the streets with pride. But before even a day of peace arrived, new reports had already arrived. The parading through the streets in the poem refers to the clanging tram passing through quiet residential areas, disrupting the originally cozy and peaceful living environment and causing great resentment among residents. And due to electrical faults, the tram only operated for a few hours before being forced to halt. Hence, Agatha mocked it with not even a day of peace. After publication, 11-year-old Agatha was delighted, but soon forgot about it, never considering pursuing writing as a career. Agatha didn't engage in literary creation again until 10 years later, on a bleak winter day, Agatha was bedridden with influenza. Bored out of her mind, her mother asked her, "Why don't you write a novel?" Agatha was surprised. "Write a novel? What?" Her mother, being highly decisive, directly handed Agatha a notebook whose first few pages contained a laundry list, but the rest was blank. So Agatha racked her brains and wrote several short stories, plus her first full-length novel. Snow Upon the Desert mainly tells of a love triangle between a beautiful girl and two men. The meaning of Snow Upon the Desert is that life's events are so shallow and fleeting. They all vanish like snowflakes falling on the desert, melting away quietly without a trace. A rather renowned novelist lived next door at the time, so Agatha showed Snow Upon the Desert to this novelist and received much constructive advice and encouragement. Agatha submitted Snow Upon the Desert to a publisher, but it was rejected. So, in terms of results, Agatha's literary attempt ended in failure. But no path in life is walked in vain. Many seemingly fruitless endeavors actually plant seeds for future success. Although the work wasn't recognized by publishers, this experience made her fall in love with literary creation. Hmm. Her sister Madge also significantly influenced Agatha's writing career. In fact, it was Madge who opened the door to detective novels for Agatha. When Agatha was very young, Madge read her many Sherlock Holmes stories, thus introducing her to the kingdom of detective fiction. Throughout Agatha's upbringing, Madge consistently shared popular detective novels with her. At 17, Agatha and Madge read The Mystery of the Yellow Room, a locked room mystery that deeply captivated them. They repeatedly discussed its plot and agreed it was an exceptional detective novel. This very book ignited Agatha's passion for writing detective fiction. She shared this idea with Sister Madge, but Madge declared Agatha couldn't possibly write detective fiction because it was far too difficult. This cold water from her sister didn't extinguish Agatha's creative desire. On the contrary, Agatha secretly resolved to write a detective novel someday. Soon, World War I broke out and Britain joined the conflict. At 24, Agatha joined a voluntary aid detachment, first as a nurse, then working in a pharmacy. In the pharmacy, she gained extensive knowledge of chemical theory and applications, earning her pharmacist qualification. Through this pharmacist role, Agatha encountered numerous medical accidents, discovering most resulted from dosage miscalculations in formulas. Finally, the seed planted in Agatha's heart to write a detective novel sprouted. At 26, she wrote her first detective novel, The Mysterious Affair at Styles. The novel tells this story. One early morning, the mistress of Styles Court dies tragically in her room from strychnine poisoning. In this book, the great detective Hercule Poirot makes his debut, meticulously unraveling the mystery. Strychnine is a toxic substance present in the mistress's daily tonic in a lethal dosage. After high dilution, this tonic was divided into portions where each daily dose was harmless. Bromide powder was secretly added to the bottle, causing the strychnine to precipitate as insoluble strychnine bromide at the bottom. Thus, when the mistress took the final portion at the bottle's bottom, she ingested the entire bottle's strychnine content. The murderer also added some morphine to the cocoa the mistress drank to delay the strychnine's effect. This intricate poisoning method reflects Agatha's deep chemical knowledge. Writing went smoothly, but getting published was tough. After repeated rejections, Agatha finally sent the manuscript to Bodley Head Publishing Company, but it vanished without a trace. It wasn't until after World War I ended and Agatha was already a wife and mother that The Mysterious Affair at Styles was finally published. By then, Agatha was 30 years old, 4 years after the manuscript was completed. The publication of her first novel thrilled Agatha, but due to the shady publisher's harsh terms, even though it sold well, she only got £25 in royalties. She then wrote two more detective novels. During the writing process, Agatha gradually learned the inside workings of the publishing industry. She realized that when publishing her first book, her naivety and eagerness led to being exploited by the publisher. So she decisively left that unscrupulous publisher and hired a proper literary agent. So, what happened in Agatha's life after becoming a professional writer? How exactly did she become the queen of crime? This starts with Agatha's first marriage. Her first husband was Archie, an Air Force pilot, a spontaneous man you never knew what he'd say or do next. Of course, when Archie returned from the war front, he believed he couldn't marry because the war was too terrifying. Since a man could die at any moment, marrying an innocent girl would harm her. See, that makes sense, right? But just days later, Archie changed his mind, insisting he and Agatha must marry immediately. If it were another girl, she might think this man is too fickle and unreliable. But Agatha fell in love with Archie's fickleness. Earlier, we discussed Agatha's personality traits, and a key one was her love for novelty. Archie's unpredictability gave her the freshness that steady men lacked, and she quickly fell in love. After getting married, Agatha traveled around the world with her husband Archie. Agatha loved traveling all her life. She once said that the clearest and most vivid memories in her mind were all about the places she had visited. During this trip, the couple visited countries like South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Hawaii, Canada, and almost traveled all over the world. Travel, it was instrumental to Agatha's writing career. She once said that the clearest and most vivid memories in her mind were all about the places she had visited. Extensive travel experiences broadened Agatha's horizons, inspired her creativity, and filled her books with exotic charm. This is what set her apart from other writers of her time. For example, while traveling in South Africa, Agatha happened to encounter a revolution there. She carefully noted many details and conceived the character of a young girl who bravely ventured the world, writing the book The Secret of the Mill. Agatha included vivid descriptions of South African landscapes in her book, captivating readers not only with the plot, but also with the exotic scenery of South Africa. A year later, the couple returned from their travels. But Archie couldn't find a job for a long time, leaving the family in dire financial straits. To alleviate the family's financial difficulties, and because Agatha genuinely enjoyed the writing process, she also received enthusiastic letters from readers. All this led her to, see writing as a lifelong career, and it became an indispensable part of her life. Wherever she went, she always thought about incorporating what she saw and heard into her novels. However, she didn't receive understanding and affirmation from her husband, Archie. Archie didn't care about Agatha's writing career. Whenever Agatha discussed ideas for new stories or plots for new books with him, Archie always responded perfunctorily with comments like, not bad or could be better, making Agatha very disheartened. As Shakespeare said, hasty marriages seldom end well. When Agatha was 37, her beloved mother passed away. Agatha had to suppress her grief and deal with her mother's belongings. Over a month later, Archie came to the old house, but what he brought Agatha was not comfort, but another major blow. He cheated and demanded a divorce. During this period, Agatha faced severe financial hardship. Depressed and in a writing slump, she couldn't bring herself to write a single word. Agatha finally ended this 16-year marriage. To heal from the divorce and transformative, Agatha embarked on her first solo journey aboard the Orient Express to the Middle East. The Orient Express itself was legendary. The world's first transcontinental train crossing 7 countries, renowned for ultimate luxury. And its passenger list included royalty, global tycoons, and celebrities from all fields. Even during WWI, the Franco-German armistice was signed aboard this train. It was on this journey that Agatha wrote the famous Murder on the Orient Express. During her trip, floods washed away tracks, stranding the train for 24 hours. Agatha meticulously documented this incident, including passenger observations, like Mrs. Hubbard, a key character modeled after an American elderly lady in their carriage. At that time, Agatha also learned about shocking news, a globally sensational case. Charles Lindbergh's infant son was kidnapped and brutally murdered. The maid, unable to provide clear testimony, became a suspect and committed suicide. Later, she was proven innocent. Only after 2 years did police trace ransom money to find the real killer. This case was historic, as the first time U.S. authorities convicted someone using multiple circumstantial evidences, meaning there was no direct evidence, while the killer's wife persistently claimed they were together during the kidnapping. And my husband was with me that night. The ransom found at the killer's home belonged to a fur trader who died in Germany. This cruel, perplexing case deeply shocked Agatha. Combining her Orient Express surroundings with this real case, she crafted her novel. In the novel, the kidnapper escapes legal punishment, living lavishly in Europe with ransom money. Yet aboard the Orient Express, he finally faces due retribution. 12 people in total, relatives or friends of the kidnapping victims, jointly carried out a murder. But on this journey, Agatha gained not only her masterpiece, Murder on the Orient Express, but also her true love, her second husband, Max. At that time, Max was an assistant to archaeologist Woolley, sent by Agatha's friends, the Woolleys, to accompany her. This was for Agatha's journey from Ur to Baghdad. Agatha initially refused this arrangement since she wasn't used to having a young man as her travel companion, but soon discovered Max's kindness and thoughtfulness were rare. And Max fell for Agatha because of a small incident during the trip. Once, while driving deep into the desert, they suddenly spotted a desert lake with shimmering blue waves. The heat was unbearable then, so Agatha suggested swimming in the lake. After a refreshing swim, they realized their car had sunk into the sand from being parked too long and was now stuck. They weren't on a caravan route, so no vehicles might pass by for quite some time. While Max and the driver strained to free the car, Agatha quietly fell asleep in its shade. At that moment, Max decided Agatha would make an unparalleled wife. Facing such danger, she didn't fuss or complain at all. The couple's married life was harmonious and blissful. Agatha's writing career also flourished. She gradually transitioned from amateur to professional writer. Most of her works were written after marrying Max. Max himself was an archaeologist, not particularly interested in literature, yet his support for Agatha's writing was irreplaceable. Why do we say that? Well, whenever Agatha felt stuck, she'd vent to Max. I can't write anymore. No ideas left. Probably never finish another book. Despite his busy schedule, Max never minded Agatha interrupting him repeatedly. He always comforted his wife wholeheartedly, encouraging her through writing blocks. With such an understanding partner, Agatha's writing talent naturally flourished. Though her autobiography doesn't detail her writing process, her creative journey shows she had distinct methods and habits. I've categorized it into 3 phases. Phase 1, gathering inspiration and material. Agatha always kept one or several notebooks handy to capture sudden inspirations, like plot ideas during walks, poison concepts during chores, clever fraud cases from newspapers, or even actresses' performances sparking creativity. Agatha also mined historical periods for material. For instance, when writing an ancient Egypt detective story, she'd extensively research history, extracting intriguing events to fuel her imagination. She'd also gather enough information to depict daily life in that era. And what did people eat back then? Did men and women dine together? What were their houses like? Did women have private rooms? Were clothes stored in chests or cabinets? All these details could become brilliant touches in Agatha's novels. After gathering inspiration, phase 2 began, letting the story simmer and develop mentally. Agatha believed detective novels succeeded through deeply layered characters. Characters shouldn't be black and white, but ambiguous and enigmatic. Someone seems guilty, yet innocent. Actions appear unlike them, but were indeed theirs. Achieving this depth was challenging. Thus, Agatha often spent years conceiving a novel, sometimes up to 6 or 7. She'd mentally refine plots repeatedly until seamless, with characters becoming fully realized. Agatha loved brainstorming in the bathtub while eating apples, or walking for hours in open fields, thinking as she strolled. She often wandered streets lost in thought, missing shops she meant to enter or offices to visit, muttering to herself and rolling her eyes. When snapping back to reality, she'd find people watching and slightly avoiding her. Clearly, everyone thought this woman was mad. The final phase was putting pen to paper. Agatha said, when the story became clear, characters waited like actors backstage, ready for their entrance. Suddenly, a phrase would flash in her mind. She knew the long awaited moment had arrived. Once writing, she'd complete drafts rapidly, from first to last chapter. Fearing interrupted flow, she ignored details, rushing to capture the story before revising later. Only after finishing would she revise. Thus, she produced brilliant detective novels, one after another. Agatha also reveled in creation's pure joy. She said, when creating, humans feel closest to God. In 1947, for Queen Elizabeth's 85th birthday, Agatha wrote The Mousetrap, setting a world record by running continuously over 60 years on stage. Agatha credited its success to ingenious plotting, layers unfolding so audiences eagerly anticipated twists they couldn't predict. Its blend of humor and thrills appealed across ages and classes. This theatrical success opened new artistic horizons. Her talent flourished further, making her and her work globally renowned. In 1956, Agatha received the Order of the British Empire and an honorary doctorate from Exeter University. In 1971, she was made a Dame Commander. For detective fiction achievements, she became a Royal Society of Literature Fellow, received OBE and damehood, and was crowned Queen of Crime by the Queen herself. At 75, Agatha added an epilogue to this biography. In the epilogue, she wrote, "My sun is setting, I await the death that must come. Then I shall go to another unknown world. Thank God for my blessed life and the profound love given to me." 10 years later, in 1976, Agatha passed away at 85. That concludes our reading of Agatha Christie's autobiography. Reading notes are below the audio. See you tomorrow.